All right, my name is Lundqvist. I'm system engineering Arista. Someone told me this morning, Arista, is that a record company? I have no clue. So if you missed Idol, don't come to me, right? I can't help you out to your fame here. So if you're a guitar player, well, I'm happy on your behalf, but I can't help you out. I have my companion there, Peter Kotilas. So if any questions about Arista afterwards, then we are here, please. I'm not going to show, obviously we are a hardware company with a twist, but I'm not going to talk anything about any hardware really. So if anyone has questions about Arista switches, I'll happily take that afterward, because this is an OpenStack stuff, right? This is what I will focus on. I've been roughly 1 year in the company. Previous to that, 15 years in Uniper, and before that I was in Cisco. This is actually my first time I'm in sales. If my presentation is crappy, I have 1 year in sales experience. But if anyone want to know in depth about C and the BGP code of UNOS, well then I'm by far better on it. All right, so let's shoot. So these are the topics I will spend 50 minutes on. So I will see what is the time there. All right. So I will try to rush through things because I really want to show you at the end what we in Arista are doing with OpenStack, so that you don't think of you just a boring switch vendor company here. So first of all, what's the driver for OpenStack? Well, it's virtualization. It's to get more power of the juice. No more hardware metal service that maybe has 10%, and another service because that has the lucky application maybe has 90. So the name of the game with OpenStack is virtualization. Maybe people can come up with it's more flexibility, and I can do my own stack, fine. But it all comes down to money, right? And virtualization is the name of the game of OpenStack. That's it. Essentially, the big dragons like VMware and others, they have a license fee. So this is the thing. Try to get virtualization more or less from an open source standpoint. So this is essentially what I'm going to talk about, and it might sound strange, right? Because Arista is somewhat here, right? So I will try to going up in the food chain here, and try to convince you that we are an OpenStack company, despite that we are making money on switches with LEDs and Ethernet ports and all that stuff. I know that sounds boring for you software guys, but when you're grazing with your cool software, eventually you need a cable and you need internet, right? So be nice to me. OpenStack. Has anyone? Do you guys really need to have a short lesson on this? Who has no clue about OpenStack? Raise your hand. I know that's provocative, right? Who's the expert here and consider himself as an expert in OpenStack? Has someone read it in a newspaper about OpenStack? Raise your hand. All right, okay. There's a whole bunch of hypocrites here. All right, so the things here, you have the compute, I'm not going to spend a single second on that. We always are in the Neutron phase because we are a networking company. There are these storage people, the Cinder. I'm not going to spend any time on that either. So I hope if anyone has questions about it, someone needs to help me out. So there's also more things like there's a fancy controller GUI with the Horizon. Had everyone here work extensively with Horizon? One guy, you're going to be the point man for the whole evening, dude. So, Neutron. It's introduced in the Folsom release, which is roughly 1 year ago. In brief, it manages tenant networks. Tenant network is the path to a VM. It manages logical router, which is an entity which can be something that you route on your VM, and also has a whole bunch of services. Who knows these acronyms? It's amazing. I learned it this morning. Fancy. Firewall as a service, right? Load balancing as a service. Amazing how words can come up. Then we have the ML2 plugin. Even if you have Neutron, not much going to happen unless you have a plugin, right? Neutron is the railway. Meantime, the plugin here is actually the car. So without having anything else, this is the corner stuff of it. So if you look at the ML2 plugin, for us in Arista, we essentially look at two things. We look at the type driver, and the driver here is essentially the way that we're going to tunnel something. or segment something. We can be as simple as a VLAN, can also be a GRE tunnel or a VXL LAN tunnel. That is the driver concept of at least how we see the plugin. Also, there is something called mechanism driver, which is the open switch or the Linux switch or whatever, which is the emulated hardware where the tunnel is going to go on top. So Neutron on ML2, that is, then we get started, because then we can connect this into the virtual world. These are roughly the deployment cycle. So Juno is closing in. Anyone has done some beta work on the Juno? Anyone done something on Icehouse? One guy? Anyone has drinking beer tonight? Yeah, a whole bunch, right? So the operating system on our Arista switch looks like this. Essentially, we have a system database that we subscribe everything to, even the RIB and the FIB, and if you have a nice banner where you log into a switch, everything there will be stored as an entity in a pseudo database that we call sysdb. So that is really the head of the monkey, right? That runs on our equipment, which is nice, right? Then we come up with story. Okay, so we connect internally to a socket, internal, like a local host to this one. So why don't we open up that and connect it with TCP? So that means that we can remote mount the sysdbs on all our equipment in the network. It's just a TCP connection. So that doesn't sound like fancy, right? But what it means is that all the MAC addresses, all the routes, all the states are now seen on one or two focal points. This is kind of SDN without using the word, right? So we are mounting the RIB and the FIB and all kinds of stuff from all devices into one or two logical units. So now we have the perfect world, right? Especially in a data center where we are living. Because now from a focal point, we have all the information and all the visibility. So what does that help with OpenStack? Well, suddenly we have gone up the food chain from just being the plumbers, right, to some software here that we can connect on top. Nothing prevents anyone from using OpenStack feature set or from Horizon from an ML2 plugin to connect directly to our equipment. But that is not really that scalable way, right? Because that means if you have 100 switches, you need to connect to 100, right? And you have redundancy and all that stuff. So what this means is that the controller, whatever controller you're using here, your Horizon or your VMware NSX, and I guess that's some ugly word in this room, right? NSX, right? Because you have to pay for it. Or Nuage or any other guys that their service is a controller can connect to this thing here and get all the use from the Arista switches, which means all the MAC addresses and all that stuff, right? And that's nice, right? That means that you can find a MAC address by just asking one guy. How many here has actually, trolling around after a MAC address in a data center? One guy. Well, then you see the pain. You can tell the other one else about, your suffering, right? Here you just go to this device and he will tell exactly which device has that MAC address and which port resides on. That's nice. But it's even better if you can connect certain more things to it, like OpenStack and Horizon and all this stuff. And that's nice, but where essentially is the use here, right? So the trick here is that compute nodes, they're using more or less everything, at least in a data center, use a protocol LLDP. LLDP is like Bonjour, right? It tells you exactly who you are, what version you are, and all kinds of information. So if the switch is a little bit more clever than the switches that you can buy for free when you're taking full gas in a gas station, then they can collect the information from that port. Now you have the information of your compute nodes. And since CVX mounts the information from every devices, Now you can ask the CVX, where is that compute node? Similar like a MAC addresses. So we're slowly going up the food chain here. But that is not really super sexy. The super sexy thing is that let's say you are on the Horizon dashboard and you creating essentially a tenant, a VM. If you allow the plugin and you use a Neutron stack, that one can notify from an eAPI. We just load Python in our company here. That's what we do. That one can notify the CVX, I have created a VM. Fine, cool. And further on, I'm going to install that VM, Horizon install that VM on this compute node. That's even also cool, right? But since our software knows that, okay, there's a VM created, and by LLTP information, I know it's created here. So what do I need to do to get traffic going in this data center? I need to connect the interface, right? I need to park it to that VLAN that we're supposed to be, or that VXLAN tunnel, or whatever. So by automatically, when you create a tenant VM on Horizon, installed on the compute nodes, the CVX knows, it needs this VLAN, and you're ready to go. That is OpenStack provisioning. Because it doesn't matter if how cool all your software are here, right? You need to put this traffic either east or west between your servers, and that needs switches, or north and south in order to get out to the ugly internet, right? And the way to provision that is to have a management database, and that is what we're utilizing. So one driver here could be, very simplified, is that it enables the right VLAN to that VM. And then you get going. If you have a plain layer 2 data center, that's nice. Another one is that you automatically create the VXLAN tunnel because you have a routed data center here, which means that you need to tunnel to get everyone on the same subnet. For instance, if you have an application that needs to reside on the same subnet, then you essentially need to tunnel it. And that's VXLAN. Or Gary, or whatever tunnel mechanism you're using. Damn, what time goes. So, I mean, OpenStack is nice. I'm here and talk about OpenStack, but for us, it's really no difference. It could be something that you pay an ugly license fee for, which is NSX, or it could be Nuage from Alcatel. Fine, we're happy. We help you out. VXLAN is very nice because it breaks out the 4K VLAN limit. You have 4 million in the address space of a VXLAN tunnel. We can also plug in, we can do routing, which means that you create a logical router also on the VS switch. So that is just the next step. So to summarize this is Arista's cornerstone, right? We don't see any difference if we need to help out VMware and NSX do the job, or an OpenStack. Essentially using the same mechanism, right? We are mounting information from all the switches, which means the switches and the MAC address and the port and all that information you get from free. We listen to LDP from what we connect the ports. And then we have an open API to any controller, and then essentially there you go. Questions? All right, my favorite beer of taste, or
fault tolerance of the SysDB.
Fault tolerances. What do you mean? If you kill it, Is
it one process living somewhere which is replicated somewhere else, or is it?
It essentially it's not a really it's a process. We call it an agent, right? Because we try to be cool in Arista, right? We call all processes an agent. So that one is a library. It keeps all the states, right? So for instance, if you kill a routing daemon and the topology daemon hasn't recognized any interface or down, the router daemon is going to start up and get the latest state, which by the way is a routing table. That's pretty cool convergence of a process. If you kill the SysDB, well, that is like a warm boot. So the trick here is to have multiple of them. And, for example, with BGP, inform them of their state to each other, right? I mean, this is how you do with EVPN or anything, right? I mean, with BGP stuff works, right? Was that answer to your question, or?
So that's what you can do that. You can.
Exactly. So it is in that sense an SDN controller, but we don't claim to fame to it. It is an SDN controller, because all the nice thing, so that you guys can do your Horizon or Nuage, whatever you fancy, Contrail, or we don't bother.
Any other questions for Peter?
In less than a week, it's premiere for Hammarby in Nya Söderstadion, right? I will be there. Starting shaking already, actually. But, all right, thanks.
Thank you.